The Apple Watch Series 10 is here. It has the biggest display ever. It's also the thinnest Apple Watch ever, making it even more comfortable on your wrist, whether you're running, swimming, or sleeping. And it's the fastest charging Apple Watch, getting you 8 hours of charge in just 15 minutes. The Apple Watch Series 10, available for the first time in glossy jet black aluminum. Compared to previous generations, iPhone XS or later required. Charge time and actual results will vary.
Today on CityCast Madison. It's Tuesday, so that means it's time for another must-see Madison. Who doesn't love a knockout, one-of-a-kind concert for a cause? This week is the first ever Freezing Man Festival, a now 4-day-long mega concert series put on by the charity Joey's Song. The charity uses the power of music each year to help raise funds and awareness for epilepsy research. They've got an all-star lineup of rock and roll Hall of Famers, Grammy winners, and top 40 hitmakers on deck. Ahead of the fest, we sat down with the founder of Joey's Song, Mike Gamal, to learn what's behind this effort and who's set to perform. We should note, Joey's Song has been a sponsor of this podcast, but as always, all of our podcast episodes are created with 100% editorial independence from our sponsors. It's Tuesday, January 7th. I'm Bianca Martin, and here's what Madison's talking about. Hi, Mike.
Hello, Bianca. How are you?
I'm doing really good. Thanks for coming on the show, and we're really stoked for Freezing Man Festival starting tomorrow.
I know. I'm up to my eyeballs, but in a good way. So,
yeah. So what is Joey's Song and the Freezing Man Festival for folks who don't know?
Sure. So Joey's Song is a charity we started back in 2010 after my son Joe passed away after battling a particularly heinous form of epilepsy called Dravet syndrome. And so our mission is to try to literally help the next family. You know, somewhere, somebody right now is sitting in a doctor's office getting a really crummy diagnosis, right? And they're feeling alone, they're feeling overwhelmed. And we do our little small part to try to let people know that there's somebody out there kind of fighting for them. And so we raise money to fund research grants and patient services around these kind of devastating pediatric epilepsies, but it helps the epilepsy community in general as well. So that's what Joey's Song is. And what Freezing Man is kind of the next evolution. What we do to raise money is we put on these concerts. Well, in the past, we had put on a concert in Madison. And now we're putting on several starting tomorrow night that will go throughout the week, featuring Grammy winners and Rock and Roll Hall of Famers and lots of really cool folks that for some reason leave their nice warm houses in LA and come to Madison in cold weather like this to come and play for us and help us raise some money.
Oh, I love it so much. And it's been so successful. Tell us about the story, because as you mentioned, it used to be a one night only benefit show. And this year it's 4-day music festival.
Yeah. So it actually started out even before the shows as CDs. So we've got to have everybody go in their way back time machine in their head to 2010 when we started this. It's just when people decided they were never going to pay for music again and they were only going to stream it. But we were trying to release CDs because we did not have, let's say, the plans for Joey's Song as to what it has become. So back in the day, for those people that have been in Madison for a while, I worked at a club called Headliners, which was on University Avenue back in the 80s. We had a lot of the MTV bands on the way up. So we had U2 and REM and John Cougar and Pat Benatar. Then we had a lot of the 60s bands on the way down. So I had a little bit of understanding of the music business and had made some friends in it. And so the idea was literally, if you go back and look at some of the interviews I did back then, we were hoping to sell a few CDs at the local grocery store, maybe write a nice check to the Epilepsy Foundation, and that was kind of it. But of course, since nobody was buying CDs back in that point, and you make literally micro cents on every stream that you get, we also were having live events, and the live events were making a lot more money than it. So it evolved into our first event was at a sports bar down in Chicago with about 100 people. And we've kind of moved up the Madison food chain from Pooley's to the High Noon to the Majestic to the Barrymore to the Sylvie, and now we're doing 3 nights at the Sylvie and 1 night at the Majestic as well. So we put on the kind of these crazy shows with these really fun combinations of people, and that's what it's become.
And I love it. And you touched on, I mean, Madison is a music-rich city, but there was this moment around the bands that you're talking about when there's that club that was like, it was a real big thing for national acts. Even.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Headliners, it was amazing because not to turn this into a TED talk on how the music business used to work, but, back in the day when there were record labels and they'd give you touring, a lot of these bands would book Chicago and then maybe Minneapolis and Milwaukee, and then they'd fill in these dates like a place like Madison. And so we would get a lot of these bands at again, price point, I hate to talk all businessy here, that we could afford. But that's how we would get a lot of these bands, because otherwise they would be on the road but not making any money. And so we brought through, and it was right at the apex of MTV, right? So when, all of a sudden you were starting to see the music and not just hear it. And so Headliners gave me a real good education in a lot of the stuff that I now use today, with Joey's song, how you book and what hospitality is and how you promote and all that kind of good stuff. But yeah, back in the day, it was a great place to have a college job. I can tell you that right now. If you're going to work something while you're working your way through school, working at a music venue is a pretty cool way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I, just thinking about people like Butch Vig and Garbage and, everything going on with Nirvana working on their album here, it was major. So let's get into it and talk about the festival. And
sure.
In terms of what's kicking off the whole lineup here, What's on deck for who's playing tomorrow and where?
So tomorrow night is kind of a quiet night for Joey's song, if that such a thing exists. So you mentioned Butch. So Butch and I were both kicking around Madison in the 80s before he went on to win Grammy Awards and MTV Moon Men, and I did not go on to do any of those things. But BV did. And so Butch and the guitarist in Garbage, Duke Erickson, along with Freddie Johnston and Corey Chisel and some other Wisconsin area musicians, have a band they call the Know-It-All Boyfriends. And basically the Know-It-All Boyfriends are a cover band. They do covers and they play each other's weddings and bar mitzvahs and, whatever else. That's how it started. And so they're going to do a show at the Majestic tomorrow night where they're going to do an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours. You never really know, of just kind of covers. Now, the secret behind all this, and don't tell anybody that I'm telling you this, is that almost all of the artists that are playing the rest of the week are going to be there on Wednesday as well. So what's actually going to happen, the fates only know. So that's how we're starting it out. So Wednesday night is kind of almost a mini Joey song with all these artists doing covers. Then on Thursday and Friday, we're having more traditional concerts, I guess is what you would say. We've got kind of a big headliner. So on Thursday, it's Portugal the Man is headlining the show. But then we've got Letters to Cleo, and we've got Kenny Hoopla, who is an amazing artist from Appleton, who's got a huge buzz going, and the Nielsen Trust, which is Rick and Dax Nielsen from Cheap Trick. Plus then Portugal the Man headlining it. So 4 amazing bands that each could headline that venue on their own are playing on Thursday. And we're going to do a very similar thing on Friday. And the headliner is going to be the Silver Sun Pickups. And the bands that are going to be playing before them are Belly and the Bangles, with Vicky and Debbie Peterson and a lot of people helping them sing Bangle songs. And Eve 6 are also going to be playing. So we got another 4 bands kind of thing the next night as well. And then it all leads up to Saturday, which is what Joey's song has always been, this big concert where Butch and his band, the Know-It-All Boyfriends, kind of serve as a house band. And almost everybody, there are some people that have to go home, but almost everybody that I mentioned, plus some additional artists, are going to be there on Saturday. And it's going to be like a live jukebox of covers and all that stuff. We've got John Resnick from Goo Goo Dolls joining us and Steve Porcaro from Toto joining us.
Wow.
Plus everybody that I mentioned. So it's going to be like, you're at your cool cousin's place and all of his musical friends are jamming together. That's basically it.
Oh, which is just the best feeling. This is really one of the biggest musical experiences of the year is Freezing Man Festival.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to make it evolve into. I'm heartened every year, the number of people that send me emails and go, we went last year and we had to make sure we got tickets this year, because there really isn't anything like this. There are tons of wonderful charities and tons of wonderful charity events. But there's really nothing like this where you get all these amazing musicians that come into town. And yes, on Thursday and Friday, they're going to do their sets. But then on Saturday, they're going to sing Beatles songs or Stone songs or AC/DC with people that they don't normally play with. So this is a chance for them to do something a little bit different. And you can see it on everybody's face. They're so into the moment and love it so much.
Yeah, I just imagine there's a ton of camaraderie, including some of these, top folks coming in that have been here before and are dedicated to the Madison community in that way.
Well, yeah, and that's part of the reason why we've had to go to this extended format. And I'll try not to sprain my elbow patting myself on the back. Is that everybody wants to come back? So this is a really great point for me right now, Bianca, to mention none of these people take a penny to do this. So all of these amazing artists are coming into Madison for 4, 5, 6 days to make this whole thing a success. And other than a ham sandwich and a couple beers, they're not getting anything from Joey's song. I mean, they're getting a lot emotionally from it, but not financially. And so the fact that people want to come back and keep coming back, it's a testament to the artist more than anything else of their enjoyment of this and what they get out of this and all the fun that they have. And you can see it. I think the audience can feel the fun that they're having on stage. So.
Oh, absolutely. And honestly, that's my favorite part when going to a live concert. If the artist doesn't feel like they're having fun, if the band isn't having fun, you feel that. And when they're having fun, you're like, oh, you also are taking part in that fun and reveling in the magic of the moment. Like that is the secret sauce of a good show is really them enjoying it. And especially with everyone coming together and playing our, favorite songs from other top bands. I mean, it sounds like the peak experience.
Yeah. You mentioned the word magic, and I think that's an appropriate word because I have no musical talent whatsoever. As a matter of fact, I can barely get sentences out, let alone sing them in key. But to watch these amazing people put their talent to work. Again, I can't give you how all the sausage is made, but a lot of times, even though there's days of rehearsal, somebody the night before will say, hey, we should do this song. Come in the next day, an hour before doors, and they all make all of that magic work. I could tell you so many stories of moments where I just have, over the years, have sat backstage and watched these amazing people create. Right. And just it's beyond me.
Want to have a good time for a good cause? Joey's song brings together a group of artists that include Rock and Roll Hall of Famers, multiple Grammy winners, and top 40 hitmakers to Madison each January to help raise money in the fight against epilepsy. Bands like Cheap Trick, Grammy winners like Butch Vig from Garbage, Portugal the Man, and chart toppers like the Bangles and the Goo Goo Dolls. To date, $1.3 million has been raised with the help of top artists playing for free. Over 3 days, January 8th through January 10th, Joey Song's Freezing Man Festival will hold a series of concerts featuring these artists. And then on January 11th, a huge collection of those artists will stick around and play in amazing combinations to create a one-time only musical experience. You don't want to miss out. Find out more at joeysong.org. With the new year upon us, it's the perfect time for becoming a new you. So why not start it off right with a new smile? If you're looking to boost your confidence with a straight smile, then a fresh start with Orthodontic Experts Madison is the perfect way to begin your New Year's transformation. Dedicated to quality care and orthodontic excellence, Orthodontic Experts Madison is where the best value, quality, and accessibility align. They offer premium treatment options ranging from traditional metal braces, gold braces, lingual braces, and clear aligners, making it a seamless stop for you and your entire family. Visit Orthodontic Experts Madison at 1710 Egan Road today for your no-cost consultation to find out if orthodontic treatment is right for you. Start your new year off right. Get started with braces for $195 a month, subject to terms and conditions. Orthodontic Experts. Straight teeth, Best price? That's nice. I do want to jump on what you said about how none of these artists are taking any money for themselves from this. How much has Joey's song raised so far in the fight against epilepsy?
So since we had our first concert back in January of 2011, we've raised $1.3 million. And
Wow.
Yeah, and we've been able to write some really substantial grants, and it's all on our webpage if you want to see it. People want to dig in with links and all that. But there's a lab down at Northwestern that's doing amazing DNA stuff that I can't even begin to comprehend. And we've been able to, over the last 2 years, write them $350,000 worth of a grant so they can keep their lab going and do that stuff. Our friends at the Epilepsy Foundation, we have done about $80,000. Geo's Garden, which is in Middleton, which is a respite care facility for kids with special needs. We've done $80,000+ over the years to them as well. So it really, for me, it helps us, stick to that goal of helping the next family, right? Giving them hope for the resources, but through the Epilepsy Foundation and through Geo's Garden, it's services today that can make their life better. If you've got a child with severe epilepsy and severe special needs, just making it through the day can sometimes be a challenge. And being able to support those resources that allow mom and dad to go to Big Brother's music concert or have a date, right? Or all of those other things, or support the support groups that the Epilepsy Foundation does, or whatever it is, just to keep that infrastructure around it so that these people that are really fighting every day, and it is a fight. Trust me, I've been through it, knowing that we can help them do it. And to be honest with you, have a great time doing it. It's the perfect combination.
Everybody wins.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I wanted to, give you kudos for just how transparent Joey's song is about where you put your funds. And,
Yep.
we saw on your website that more than 85% of the funds are going to local organizations, like
Yep.
you mentioned.
Yep.
I am curious, is there a lot of epilepsy research happening in Wisconsin? Do you know what that looks like?
There is. There's a lot going on at UW, but there's another organization called Lily's Luau that has been around for a long time that Ann and David Giroux run, and they do a lot of stuff for Madison. So we went to the next nearest big research center, which was down at Northwestern. And the thing about the work at Northwestern, there's so many different ways. And again, my degree's in marketing, so I skipped most of my biology classes, so don't ask me any questions about it. But the thing that really appeals about the work that Dr. Carvel's doing down in her lab at Northwestern is they're really doing it at that DNA stuff, right? We've all read about how maybe someday we can cure diseases by turning off this gene and turning on that one and all that.
Epigenetics.
That stuff. And that's the stuff that she and her PhD students are all working on. They took me down there, and you may as well have brought my dog for as much as I understood of it. But they tried to explain it to me. I just knew it was really cool. And when they said those kinds of things, I felt like, okay, that's where I want to be focusing, because the Dravet syndrome, which is what Joe's had, was a chromosomal kind of thing. One of his, genes that was supposed to be left was right, and that kind of stuff. So that, to me, if I was back, 15 years ago when Joe was still with us, would be the thing that was giving me hope, right? Medicines and all that stuff is great, and we need that stuff to minimize the symptoms, but we need to figure out a way to turn these markers off so that kids stop dying and futures stop being taken away.
Yeah. Do you know how prevalent epilepsy is in the United States?
Oh, I can give you statistics. How much time do we have?
We've got another.
So these are some of the go-to statistics. 1 in 26 people will develop epilepsy in their lifetime. So think about, being at Camp Randall and do the math on that, right? 1 in 10 people will have a seizure in their lifetime. Those are two different things, right? Seizures can happen for a number of reasons. You're overheated, stress, lots of different stuff. So as long as there is a physical explanation to it, you're not diagnosed with epilepsy. But if you have 2 seizures without direct physical causes, like head trauma or whatever it is, then you have epilepsy. And that is where you have to start figuring out how to treat those things. There are 65 million people worldwide that have epilepsy. 65 million have it. And there's been some studies that say 1 in 3 could be, I guess, spared or less severe if it was diagnosed early and they got treatment early. And because a lot of this happens in countries where they don't have the medical facilities that we do in a lot of these developed, it has an extra devastating impact on our lower income communities as well. But yeah, I mean, literally millions. And if you're sitting in a movie theater and there's 100 people in there, the odds are that 4 people will have epilepsy in that space. And the thing that's so difficult about it is, as opposed to some of these other disabilities that we know, whether it's muscular dystrophy or MS, epilepsy is not visual. Unless somebody's having a seizure in front of you, you don't know that they're sick, or sick is the wrong word, but you don't know that epilepsy is a part of their life. Whereas obviously if someone's in a wheelchair or any of these other things. And so there's a hidden element to epilepsy. Plus, unfortunately, we've got a long history until epilepsy was better understood of people thinking it was demons or, all of these other things. So there was a stigma to it. And there still is one where people don't really want to talk about it. And by having this event that's so public and has, when you go to a lot of charity events, it tends to be the people that are already affected by it that come. If there's a golf tournament or a gala, and it's no great planning on my part, but by doing it this way and having people that go, I love Portugal the Man, or I like Cheap Trick, or I like the Bangles, they're going to come away with understanding more about epilepsy, whether they like it or not, because that's what we're doing. So it's devastating. It's so prevalent and it's so in the shadows that we need more people to understand it.
Well, this is just such a great opportunity, what y'all have been putting together. We appreciate you coming on the show today because even more people, if you can't make it, they will have heard. But what an opportunity to have some fun for a good cause. Can you tell us, are there any moments that stand out to you in the years that you've been doing the festival that are just really joyful, favorite moments that stand out from these concerts over the years?
Absolutely. So the first one chronologically that stands out for me is back in 2019. So my son, Sam, who's Joey's older brother, is a budding musician. He's getting his music degree down at Beloit. He writes his own songs, has all that annoying talent that those of us that have no talent are so jealous of. And his literally first public performance when he was still 15 years old, was at Joey's song, and he sang acoustic. After a break, he came out and sang John Lennon's Beautiful Boy and dedicated it to his brother. And our pal Freedy Johnston accompanied him on guitar. First public performance, 1,000 people, and there he is. And he of course killed it because, again, he's annoyingly talented and I'm super jealous of him. So that obviously as a father stands out. But there's a couple musical moments that really stand out. And we talked about this a little bit earlier, these kind of Frankenstein's monster combinations of stuff, these moments that will never, ever happen again. I remember our first show at the Sylvie, which would have been 2.5 years ago now. We had Dave Perner from Soul Asylum, the lead singer from Soul Asylum, on lead vocals. We had Chris Collingwood, the guitarist from Fountains of Wayne, Butch Vig from Garbage on drums, and singing backing vocals was Tanya Donnelly from Belly and Kay Hanley from Letters to Cleo and Freedy Johnson. And they did Camper Von Beethoven's Take the Skinheads Bowling. And it was a shambolic mess of beauty. But the point is,
I love it. It's shambolic.
Right. It was
mess
great.
Of beauty.
That's exactly what it was. Right. And so everybody, that will never happen again. Those combination of people will never be playing again. And those are the moments that are just amazing. And then the last type of moment that sticks out for me is when I have truly these iconic people that are coming to my event, my little shindig here. There have been so many over the years, and by not mentioning people, I'm not minimizing other folks, but there are 3 that I will call out. One was back in 2019, we had Brian Ray, whose name may not be familiar to people, but Brian's day job is he's Paul McCartney's guitar player. He spent the last 25 years.
Oh, just that?
Yeah. And before that, he was Etta James, the amazing Etta James music director.
Wow.
And Brian, who I had been courting for years, finally was able to make it. And the fact that he was up on stage. And again, my son Sam is involved with this, playing while Sam was singing Don't Let Me Down, the Beatles song, and Paul's guitarist, and Butch was on drums. That's amazing. So the fact that Brian came to our little hoedown was moving. The second one is my good friend Miguel Cervantes. And Miguel was the lead in Hamilton for 8 years, 4 in Chicago and 4 on Broadway, like in the Alexander Hamilton role. And he just retired from that back in this past January, which is what prevented him from being here last year. And when Lin-Manuel Miranda was on stage saying goodbye to it, he said the only other person that's been Alexander Hamilton longer than Miguel was Alexander Hamilton himself, right? So, because he had done it for like tens of thousands of hours in that character. And so that Miguel came to Madison and sang his heart out for us was amazing. And then the last one was just this past year when Rick Nielsen from Cheap Trick was here. How often do you get a Rock and Roll Hall of Famer? And I literally stood behind the speakers right next to Rick, just sitting there shaking my head going, Rick Nielsen's playing my show. Rick Nielsen is playing my, and he was wearing a Joey Song t-shirt while he was doing it. And I mean, you know, that's the kind of stuff. So, and I could go for about another 3 hours on it, but it's these amazing people that are so talented that find it in their hearts to come and do it. And then I've got to, before I end, mention Butch, because I mean, multiple Grammy winner, high in demand producer. He's produced McCartney and Nirvana and Smashing Pumpkins. I can't tell you and I mean hundreds of hours that Butch puts in for our event. We're working on set lists for tomorrow night. We work on set lists for the rest of the week. And he's been working for months, and we figure out who should play with who. And again, you know, other than a ham sandwich and for Butch, a couple of beers, he doesn't take anything for it because he believes in what we're doing. So it's the people. I know it's cliche, but it's these amazing people.
Cliche for a reason.
I guess.
Yeah. This has been a beautiful conversation for such a beautiful effort and something that is so people powered and fun. Yeah. We are just really stoked and hoping everyone who's listening can make it out to one of the shows.
I had just checked this morning, and I think there are still some tickets for both tomorrow night through Saturday, but I don't have a purview to all of it. So if you are listening and you think you want to see any of the shows, I would do it now, because in the last 2 years, there have not been walk-up tickets available to the shows. So I would
heard it here.
Yeah, exactly.
Double check.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, Mike, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. We really appreciate it.
Bianca, thanks for your great conversation and really fun questions. And your enthusiasm is infectious.
That's Mike Gamal, founder of the charity Joey Song. If you want to go to their benefit shows this week or learn more about Joey Song and the work that they're up to, head to our show notes for a link to their site. That's all for today, here on CityCast Madison. I'm Bianca Martin, your host. If you enjoyed today's show, why not share this podcast with someone who likes to rock and roll and likes to help the children, because, hey, they are our future. See you back here tomorrow morning with more stories from around the city. Until then, rock on.